Betrayal, ambition, and the demise of the Star League brought about the horror of the Succession Wars. Just as the Star League was unparalleled in its blessings upon the human condition, so the Succession Wars were unparalleled in their brutality, beyond even the worst atrocities of the Age of War. The first of the Succession Lords to make a move was Coordinator Minoru Kurita, ruler of the militaristic Draconis Combine. Declaring himself the new First Lord of the Star League in 2786, the other lords, Davian, Liao, Merrick, and Steiner, quickly announced their own claims. What is now known as the First Succession War lasted for 35 years and remains the bloodiest conflict in all of human history. Making use of their stockpiled fleets of warships and nuclear weapons, each of the warring houses led their states in a policy of total war, destroying population centers, targeting research and production sites, and making whole worlds uninhabitable. Billions upon billions of civilians lost their lives, among them the industrial and technical experts needed to build and recover the ravaged economies and forces. Though there are a few dramatic campaigns during the war, the most notable being when House Kurita's Draconis Combine invaded and almost conquered House Davian's Federated Sons before falling back almost to their original borders. Ultimately, this first succession war was inconclusive for all 5 combatant states, and set the stage for more to come. The conflict ground to a halt, not from any sense of war-wrought enlightenment or achieved goals, but instead from sheer exhaustion of manpower and materiel. The House Lords, each of them fearful of the capabilities of their neighbors' realms, immediately reacted to the uneasy cessation of hostilities by scrambling to put their smashed economies and defenses back into some semblance of working order. Tragically, just 9 years later, in 2830, the Second Succession War was ignited by a minor incident of espionage between the Steiner and Kurita states that quickly agitated a resumption of warfare throughout the Inner Sphere. This second conflict was every bit as destructive and inconclusive as the first. A precipitous decline of military and economic capacities continued and even accelerated, a problem made worse by the deliberate targeting of industrial and academic personnel and facilities throughout both covert and military means. War-torn worlds were abandoned, as were colonies whose terraforming technologies could no longer be supported. In 2864, like the one before it, the Second Succession War also ended in a tangle of mutual exhaustion. By this time, the Inner Sphere's level of sustainable technology had regressed to a strange mix of modern and backslidden technology. No longer did any of the great houses possess fleets of warships or the means to manufacture them, and aside from a handful of automated factories still limping along, it was only by scavenging or cannibalizing existing machinery that advanced battlemech technology could be employed. The only exception to this technological decline was Comstar. Jeremy Blake's original charter for Comstar as a professional communications organization changed when Conrad Toyama, who was Blake's successor, steered Comstar towards something which more resembled a fanatic quasi-religious sect. Increasingly secretive and insular during the decades and centuries of the Succession War period, Comstar hoarded its Star League-era technology as part of Toyama's vision of Comstar saving humanity only when the Inner Sphere finally destroyed itself. Though the Inner Sphere was as yet oblivious to this shift of Comstar's neutrality, around the close of the Second Succession War, there was an emergence of an unspoken set of rules among the successor states as they finally began to realize that they would lose their ability to function altogether if the warring continued on in this way. The bitterness and enmity was still there, but the rivals would no longer target each other's few remaining jump ships and other such irreplaceable factories and technologies. Any capture of their possessions could be taken back later. For its part, Comstar's leadership calculated that a more conscientious Inner Sphere could eventually recover from the partial abyss into which they'd sunk, and so, Comstar's ultra-secret ROM organization covertly fanned the embers of pride and ambition among the great houses, touching off another war. In 2866, just 2 years after the uneasy cessation of the previous conflict, the Third Succession War erupted. This time, however, the intensity of the war was a far cry from the previous levels of devastation, largely due to the severely limited military capacities of each of the successor states. Perhaps because of this, the conflict lasted for over 150 years, and was characterized by smaller-scale operations. While the successor states still warred with each other, their rulers became gradually more skeptical of Comstar's neutral public face as the 30th century drew to a close, as well as becoming increasingly obsessed with preserving any remaining technology.